I oh, I really sorry.
No,
So
it's
I
fine.
really yeah, I didn't get to choose to go. Instead, I just got this affirmation to change my life, eat differently, everything, and that I wasn't done. So here I am doing
That's
much
good. That's good. How do
yeah
you feel about it now, though?
about what I went through.
Yeah.
Um, I think that we'll experience so many times of being brought to our knees, either in health or relationships or whatever. And what do we do with that? Do we give
Yeah.
up? Because I kind of wanted to. I didn't, at least health wise, because when you don't feel good, you don't want to do anything. And it's
Yes.
like, so I have a darling, I'm a caretaker for elderly people. And I have a darling lady I absolutely love who'll be 97 in 2 weeks. And she wakes up. I'll go in her room to get her up, and she's like, "When I woke up, I thought I was dead." And I kind of didn't know what to say. And then she said, but then she turned it around and said, "But then I started feeling the pain in my legs again, and I knew I was still alive."
That's kind of funny.
It was with her personality. It's very darling because, at 97, what have you got left to do?
Yeah.
And so, we have to realize that the picture is so much bigger than us. Our,
Yes.
it could be, she could be an example or a lesson for me. Here,
Yeah.
somehow we were brought together, or her children to mend broken fences, or, it, or that someone is waiting to be forgiven and she hasn't given it yet. I don't know. It's just at 97, apparently there's still something she's supposed to do. So,
Yeah. I always like thinking, about people that are older and how different they are. You can see that they have just sometimes, like, you get people who've just made peace and they feel like they're ready to go. And then others, they hold on. They hold on. They just, and my late grandmother was like that. She was in her late 80s, or I think early 90s, when she passed a few years ago. And she was holding on. She did not want to die. And there were so many times where we thought, okay, she's going to die now, and, let's say goodbye and this and that, but she didn't. And I don't know why, because, well, I have my own opinions about it. She wasn't the most wonderful person in the world. And, a lot of her kids and her grandkids, myself included, have a lot of not so fond memories, about things. And I always wondered, was she holding on because she was afraid of, having to deal with the consequences now that she would die, and she knows, what she had done? Because she was never someone who talked about things. We never addressed any of the issues that, came up in our childhoods. And she never, asked for forgiveness, or, said anything that made us feel like she regretted any of the things she'd done. It was always very ego based, And so I always wonder, is that something that affects how we die? I think it does. What do you think?
well, I spent 5 years as a hospice volunteer, and I would walk the floors of the hospice unit in the hospital. And I used to say I had an angel on my shoulder that would point me to what rooms that I needed to visit. And I would go in, and I was friends in faith. I was not in their personal care other than whatever to make them comfortable. But I held hands, read stories, visited, talked, whatever I was called to do. And there was a gentleman in a room. I wrote about him in one of my books that he he should have been dead. I mean, he probably weighed only 70 pounds, and his legs were an indigo blue. I mean, up and down, they were just awful looking. and he really couldn't converse. Um, but his family, I saw a rift in the family. It was a mother
Mm.
and her daughter, and they would stand on the other side of the room, way far away from him. They were there, but they weren't there. You could walk in and feel the separation. And in the room were pictures of him as a military. His medals were laying across his pictures and whatnot. You know, he had really risen in ranks in the military, and apparently, and I said something like, wow, this, how interesting, or he must have been some kind of guy or something. And the daughter said, and sorry, there's lots more details in the story. I haven't told the story in a long time, but her reaction to my, oh, what a great guy, was, yeah, he was really a man's man, wasn't he, or something. And I went, oh, something's wrong. And then I saw the mother, um, who'd been in between them for years, just, trying to appease her, trying to appease him. And I wanted to leave the room, and they asked me if I'd please stay, and it that continued. And so when I finally did leave, or was going to leave, I said, "Look, um, obviously this gentleman hasn't got much time. Why he's hanging on, we don't know. Um, but I suspect, and I said I have deep feelings about this, which I do, that he's waiting for something. And what I've recognized in this room is a division that will really affect all of you if you don't fix it before he goes. He's waiting. If he could verbalize, I'm sure that he would be saying, I'm sorry. I think it would be important for you. And I faced the daughter and said, if you have issues, tell him now. Yell at him, get it out. You're in this earth plane where things can be, it will be so much harder to say these things after he's gone, to be fixed from two different sides of the veil. I said, get it all out now and give him a chance to, you know, understand the rift or what he had done. And I walked out of the room and stood in the hallway, and she just let loose on this guy. And, I thought, well, what I start, but it must have been necessary. I went home and I was thinking about him, and I actually had a visual of him in a wheelchair, now at least 100 pounds heavier in this visual. And he's in a wheelchair, and they're pushing him out of the hospital, showing me it was going to take a little while for his legs to get enough to hold him up, but that he was on a road to recovery. And he was very, um, sorry, it makes me cry, because he looked at me and he did a salute to me, for to let me know that what I had done and said he was able to go. So he was thanking me in a military way for what I had helped his family do. So, um, follow your instincts. It's like I could have stepped in it and made a big mud pile, but it helped. You know.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, that's so beautiful. I'm glad that you could do that for him and for his family.
Mm,
Because even a small act of kindness really goes a long way. I've seen that many, many times in my own life, in lives of others. People tell stories all the time, and we take it for granted. We don't think that, a small act can make a difference, but it really does.
mm,
Because compassion is something that is like, we think it's a small act, but there's so many unseen factors that are affected by one act of compassion, or
exactly.
even kindness, or even just a smile at someone, when they feel unseen, or when they feel not good enough or whatever, and a random person just, offers them some kind of kindness, it really makes a difference. So,
Well, to your audience, I had a near death experience, and I was able to witness those ripples. I was going through a life review, and there were screens all around me, all playing different versions, everything happening all at the same time. But you have this 360-degree view, and
Yeah.
the capability and capacity to do it all at once and take it all in. And
Yeah.
the points that you're the most proud of, or you're shown, the ones that are not, you're not so proud of, but they're important lessons and important to your exploration of your trip here. you know
Yes.
this could have been better, not as a guilt, not as a judgment, not bad. It's like, here's another way you might have handled this situation or something. But when you and but the ones that really stuck with me were the simple smiles, like we were just saying, you know, and that possibly could have saved somebody's life. I saw a ripple that went out for generations of someone who was going to kill themselves. And that, that experience would have stopped right then. And yet,
Mm.
that simple acknowledgement that there was kindness in the world and somebody actually saw them, even for that split second, the ripples that went out from that, generations of family that were born that wouldn't have
Mm.
been born. It's, we we're so wrapped up in our thisness of, my Claudianess and, whatnot, that we don't have the capacity to see the big picture, and the big picture even in our own worlds of our family or husbands or whatever. It's That's still so limited. The picture is the picture. And even as a near death experiencer or whatnot, we get a little puzzle piece, or, a little corner piece of that picture. And we, as we do things like this and these interviews and the book that we are working on together, um, to, to fill in a couple more of the puzzle pieces in that big
Yes.
picture.
Yeah, and that's why I love near death experience stories, because it offers healing. It offers, I don't know what this feeling is, but it's kind of like a combination of releasing fear and giving comfort. I don't know what that emotion is called, but I feel that all the time with every near death experience story I hear or read or anything. It's like there's just confirmation, I am loved unconditionally. I'm not judged. God loves me unconditionally. He created me with a purpose in mind. And it's like I need those reminders, and I know other people need those reminders too, because we get caught up in, like you say, in who we are or who we think we are as the human. And to make matters even more complicated, we've got bills to pay and we've got families, and now we get all kinds of other things coming up. We have to work a job and we have to do this and do that. And we dilute the main reason we came with all the other things we need to do. I don't have time to do this because I have to go to work, and I cannot play with my kids because I'm too tired, or this or that. And I feel it sometimes. I really feel like I'm not doing enough. I feel like, oh, I don't have the time, and whatever, all the limiting beliefs come up. And then the reminders are like, you're doing the best you can, and that's the best that you can do, and that's okay. And one day when I die, and we all will, I will also have a life review, and I will also see, okay, well, every choice that I've made, was it with the best intention in mind? And I think that is probably what the most important is. If what was the intention behind every decision?
And yes, yes. Because we are all kind of on that hamster wheel, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we've got to pay the rent, we've got, and our responsibilities, and our children and grandchildren and whatnot. What I um what I have been shown is just do your best. There's not just, even in our exploration of spirituality, it's kind of like, oh, I wish I had time to listen to that podcast, or oh, darn me, I bought a book and I haven't even opened it yet, or things like that. It And we chide ourselves. It's kind of like,
Mm.
you know And we do, we feel like we're just, we're
Mm,
I'm paddling as fast as I can in the water to stay afloat sometimes. It's all okay. You're okay. You're enough. Do your thing. There are moments in the day at work to take a deep breath or give a compliment to someone in the bathroom,
mm,
make their day better. It didn't take any extra time. It gives you, it grounds you, it gives you beauty. Um, it will fill the room, it will fill the office. There are those moments, minuscule, but they will
mm,
but they will take you off that feeling of the hamster wheel. And don't get mad at yourself for what you don't get accomplished. Give
mm.
yourself a pat on the back for what you do. That's
Aw,
what you'll
thank
get on
you.
the other side. That's what
That's
you'll
a nice message. That's a good reminder. It really
Yeah.
is. So tell us, how did you die, Claudia? What happened?
I was having my fifth baby, my fifth and last baby. I had healthy children, healthy mother, and my due date was within a couple of days, and I just had a contraction across my um, stomach that it didn't go away. It My stomach went hard and it stayed hard, and it didn't hurt, and I was going about my day, but after hours and hours of it, and I just kept having this little, you need to go get checked out. And but I was doing laundry and the kids were going to come home from school or this or that, and it was like, go to the hospital. This was basically 10 o'clock at night now. I had ignored my that feeling all day. And when I got there, thank God I was there finally, because I barely got into the examination room. And what happened was, the reason my stomach was so hard is blood was pumping into my placenta. It's an organ between the mother and baby. But for whatever reason, it wasn't pumping out, or not enough, and the placenta was just filling with blood, until I'm in the examination room at the hospital. It exploded. It detonated inside of me, um, and I lost almost my whole body's worth of blood in one traumatic instant. It was just it was like the movie The Shining. It was just everywhere. And so it was quick, and it didn't hurt at first, and I was just in shock of suddenly everyone screaming and running around and telling each other I had basically 2 minutes of blood. So I went from happy, healthy, to I'm dying in 2 minutes. So you kind of go through, get your affairs in order in real quick form. It was kind of like there was nothing I could do, and I and without telling all the gory details, because they're in the book, and if you like gory details, it was pretty gory. But they had to take my baby, with my permission. I went through complete emergency C-section without any kind of anesthesia or anything. It was completely hold my arms and legs down and cut my baby out. And um, she was drowning in the blood. And so it was, I just had to resign myself to hold still while you're going through the most intense, horrible, awful pain. And all I could think of was just hold still for your baby, hold still for your baby. And that's how I died, was trying to save my baby. So,
That is intense. That is one of the most intense ways I've heard of someone dying. Like,
mm,
usually, it's a car accident and then they wake up in heaven. Oh, I died. But to actually have your placenta burst inside of your body, I can only imagine the amount of pain that must have been. And then all the what was going on in your head, like because you have 2 minutes, and now you're thinking, okay, fine, if I'm dying, fine, I've made peace with that, but my
Right.
baby's drowning in the blood. Do something. And then it's like, okay, no anesthetic now, you're going to cut through 7 layers of my body to get to my baby. And you have to hold me down because obviously the intense
Down,
pain, like
move
that
things.
must have been so traumatic for you.
Yeah, yeah, it was, which is, I didn't find myself in the garden or next to grandma or Moses or anything. I went to what people call the void. I don't call it the void because it was an absolutely perfect, beautiful blackness. It
Yeah.
was all feeling because there was no seeing, and I was held and cradled and loved by an everything, a nothingness and an everythingness all at the same time. And it knew me intimately. It loved everything about me. It swaddled and cradled me, and I was safe and loved, and I could have stayed there forever. So,
Mm,
all of my books that I've written afterwards have been what has come back to me after going back, being sent back to my body. And so my near death experience, I wrestled with for a really long time because I didn't have all the visuals and the meetings and the interview with Jesus or, whatever. And I felt really slighted. It was like, wait a minute, I had this perfect thing happen to me, but how come it wasn't as cool as, someone over here or this TED
yeah.
talk over here?
Mhm.
And it left me in that place for years and years where I just had to protect what I had was mine, and
Mm.
I knew it was perfect, and I knew it was wonderful, and I longed so much for something more. And it took over 20 years before I started getting my dreams and memories and visits from my
Yes.
spirit guide. So I also tell your audience out there, I'm not a patient person, but it's one of the lessons. It's like it took me a real resolve and I really intently want this and ask for it for a very long time before it started coming. So,
Yeah.
that's, and also I'll answer someone who is skeptical. It's like, well, how come someone, has this near death experience like Dr. Eben Alexander? He was on a program on TV where he explained his experience, but he has gotten more afterwards. And almost all of us, I think, I'm going to say all of us, and get more throughout the years, keep coming. And the beauty of his story really didn't happen until like 3 years or something later. And I won't go into his story, but it's worth buying his book for. But, um, or why every experience is different. We're given
Mm.
what what we need at the time. I obviously just needed to be protected from the trauma and show
Yeah.
a real intent to want to know more. Was I just going to
Yeah.
go through life and be okay with what I had? That little bit of
Mm.
know that there is life after. It's perfect. I don't know what exactly it would be, but I knew that I
Mhm.
my Claudianess went to heaven, went to that place,
Yeah.
and I didn't miss my body. I didn't need my body. I was
Mm.
okay with the me that I was.
Yeah.
My spirit me is who I am.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that it's the experience is ever evolving. Like you say, even years later, you can remember more can
Yes.
come, more details can fill in. And again, like you said, I think it's also relevant. Is it relevant for me to know this right now at this time in my life? And
Yes.
because things change all the time, changes all the time, life happens. And then you need something, you need that memory to come back or this or that. And I love that it's ever evolving. The experience is always changing you, just like it did the first time. The new memory changes you again.
Mhm.
So it's transformational, not just in that instant, but for the rest of your life, it's transformational.
Yes, absolutely. That was perfect. Absolutely. That we're given. And in fact, as it was coming back, I was questioning. I was saying, is this memory or is this new stuff? It's kind
Mm,
of like,
mm,
because I'm trying to write about it. And in my first book, I didn't quite understand, and I was asking, is this Memorex or, that kind
mm.
of thing. And I hear this kind of laughter, and it was like, does it matter? I mean,
Yeah,
we're giving it to you. Does it matter if it's memory or new? It doesn't
yeah.
matter. If you're getting things, hold on to them. And um, also, because I get so much in my dreams, I keep a dream journal, keep it by my bed. No, I don't wake up in the middle of the night anymore to write them down. I kind of scribble a word or a phrase that I try and remember, and I'll hold my journal up and write it, in the dark, just hoping I'll be able to catch it in the morning. And usually I can.
Yeah.
We're we're given so much every night. We're not just laying here,
Mm,
dreaming of ourselves in the last movie we watched or something. I mean, there's a purpose to our sleep, and
yeah.
this is when we communicate, we travel, we go see our loved ones that are gone. We visit all
Mm,
kinds of places. We can do anything in our sleep, and but we wake up back into this um, forgetful. We don't
mm.
remember, and you have to really ask to remember. And when you really want it and you start capturing it in journals, it's amazing how you can read something from a year ago that now folds into a dream you had last night and go,
Mm.
oh, I'm being taken on a journey here because I don't remember. I'm in my 10th journal, and when I read the first pages of the 10th one, I've forgotten everything. I mean, not everything, but so much that I had written down. I'm going, oh my goodness, yeah. Yeah, this is only one journal ago, so
Mm.
all the things in the first, second, third, and on, um you know captured a lot of wonderful things, and your audience can too, especially if there's intent, right?
Yes. The intention is everything. So what was one of the recent dreams or memories that you have recovered from your near-death experience lately?
Mm. Something that I wanted to talk about, though you audience may be viewing this next summer, but right now you and I are talking in the midst of Christmas coming up. And Christmas starts, bringing the memories of family, or if you've lost someone. I got a call last night. My dearest friend lost her mother a couple days ago, and she called to tell me. And it brought it brings my mother into it. I miss my mom. We miss our family that isn't here, that are our loved ones that aren't here. And as I was getting these new memories, or the newness or the memories, whatever they were, as I was getting those, and after my mother passed, I was receiving those lessons through my mother, through my sister, through my father. They were my greatest teachers. And so at Christmas now, I'll tell you something that I got the other night was a Christmas card from my mother in my dream. I was opening a Christmas card. I don't remember all what the card said, but I knew it was a Christmas card. But she was typing at the bottom in this visual. I'm seeing this screen of the bottom of a card, and it just said, "Love you always." And then it's, instead of saying mom, though, because she was wanting this to go out to my family, I'm kind of the reciprocal of messages that I give people. So my mom was saying Merry Christmas to the family. And as this typing went on, and my children call her Gma, not grandma, but capital G Ma, right? Is how they always talked about her. Well, as she was typing this at the bottom, love you always, G, capital G, a capital M was being typed, and she backspaced it to a small MA. So it was like, it even showed that it was real time, that she was really sending it, that she was spelling out GMA, and that I was to give this Christmas card to our family. And I wanted to share something in my first book, Gifts from the Edge, um, that has a lot of these things from my mother, as I was learning how to communicate with the other side, and all of the stumbling and everything that I went through, and having to learn to trust, because it's
Mm,
not like they're standing in the room and you're hearing a conversation. It's coming into you, and you can swipe it away, or you can start paying attention to it. You can swipe it away like it's like I was doing with instinct, or that
mm,
whisper to go to the hospital. But after
mm,
a while, if you acknowledge it, the more that you acknowledge of these communications, whether it's a penny on the street, or a feather that drifts down in front of you, and you think, gee, was that dad? Or that could have been dad, or that bird, or whatever. If Even if it wasn't, if you hold on to that and acknowledge it, dad up in heaven goes, she thought that was me. Well, 2 days later, he's going to really send you that feather. It's what we grasp onto, because they would love to communicate with us. But if we're
mm,
just being busy and dumb and brushing everything away, you know, or not acknowledging that we we can get visits in our dream, that we do get
mm,
visits in our dreams. So if we open ourselves up to that possibility, those feathers, those pennies, those whispers will come. Um,
mm.
but this was one that hit me over the head. I'll turn it to the page, but I know you're not going to be able to see it very well. This photograph, can you see that? Am I
No
holding?
photo. Maybe
Okay,
if you lift it a bit higher.
okay,
There we go.
okay. It's,
Champagne, mimosa champagne in the morning. The bodies may die, but the love never does.
so I was typing to my daughter-in-law. It was Thanksgiving, our first one without her. And I was having a hard time. You know, I missed my mom. So I'm writing to my daughter-in-law and saying, "Well, come early. We can have some mimosas in the morning, some champagne." Well, there wasn't even a space in between it when it started to text itself. The bodies may die, but the love never does. She was sending us all a message. Sorry, Goosey's. She was
Getting
there.
goosey too.
Yeah, they're there. They know what we're doing. They're participating in their own way. Sure, on the other side, they're doing all kinds of things. But if we reach our thoughts and our emotions to them and go, I need to see you, mom, or I want to hear you, or something like that, they are so happy to comply. Open yourselves up to the
Mm.
miracles, you know?
Yeah, just being open to it and just knowing that anything is possible because the only thing that keeps us away from it is just our own limiting beliefs of what is possible and what isn't.
Mhm.
And that applies to everything, everything, everything. There's no exception. So that is, oh, that's so beautiful. And it's such a good reminder because all of us miss someone, and one day my mom's gonna die. And
Mhm.
I'm gonna need that reminder. Because no
Yeah.
matter what, I know you've had a near death experience, you've come back, it's not the end, that we don't just disappear into nothingness, but still grief is painful.
Oh,
It
yeah.
never stops being painful.
And no matter how much or have experienced, yes, the other side, it's real. It doesn't change the fact that I can't go out for a malted shake with her. I can't take her to dinner. or she's not sitting at the physically sitting at the table anymore. And that's still painful and it's okay. It's like, don't, you don't have to hide or swallow your grief, but if you open up the fact that she could still be with you, and if and converse with you in a different way. I put several stories like this in the book that we're working on together. I'm so excited about it. um, it's a book of many different experiencers that are sharing our particular stories. And so, I have 3 books of them. Well, I have to pick a couple, or to share. So this is the same thing with all of the other authors in the book. They are filled with so much information. Um, you know, so if you find us interesting, look us up. Friend
Yeah.
us on Facebook. Buy our books. Um, you know, I'm I have no problem conversing or answering genuine questions. And, I wish for those 20 years that I kind of wandered in
Mm.
I don't knowness, you know, that
Yeah.
I would have had the internet. It can
Yeah.
be a blessing or a curse. Treat it as a blessing and look up, podcasts and books on tape and things like that. I need to get my books on tape. But anyway, there are ways to involve yourself in as a spiritual seeker. And if you're watching this program right now, guess what? You're a spiritual seeker, right? There's something
Yeah.
more and you're looking for an avenue to it. You can listen to a book on tape on the way to work and walk into your job in a better place than you were without it,
Yeah.
without beating
Yeah.
yourself about the head that you didn't read a book, or,
Yes.
even
Yes.
pray. You know, um,
Yeah.
I, for the longest time, I had a hard time with praying because I was putting it in the same category as religion. And
Mm.
once I had my near death experience, I have a whole different view of religion.
Mm.
And I don't disparage any religion, any faith beliefs, or anything like that. Whatever helps us through, get through this life, it's wonderful. So
Mm.
I'm not talking that way, but for me, I knew that there was so much more than this box that I had limited um, myself into, basically, and that box had to be opened and expanded. Um, and so, sorry, looking for good details how to explain that when, as you are, if you've been taught something, it's hard to let that go. There's only so much space in here to hold stuff. And as you get
Mm.
new stuff, well, how does that work with the old stuff? And sometimes you have to I call it the mind shelf. Anything
Mm.
that I'm saying, that you're saying, if anything has a resonation to you, that
Mm.
hold it up to the light, treat it as something new, set it on the mind shelf, and just maybe let a little bit seep in, maybe let a little bit
Mm.
seep out, and just let that
Yeah.
space grow a little bit.
Yes. Yes. Because that is what life is about. It's about constantly reevaluating our belief systems, because that's what it is.
Mhm.
So I know this stuff, I believe this stuff, I'm creating my reality based on these things.
Exactly.
What do I want to hold on to? What is serving me? What do I want to let go of? And then we find, oh, okay, I'm trying to let go of this thing, but it's not as easy. So, ooh, there's something sticky going on here. Let's dig deeper and see, why am I holding on to this belief so tightly? What about it makes me feel how it makes me feel? Okay, whether it be unworthy or unloved or whatever. And if just doing that, that is what spiritual seeking is all about. It's about seeking the self. What am I? What am I? Who am I? Where do I come from? Where am I going? And I love knowing, and I find a lot of comfort in remembering that God created me. Well, I'm saying God, but
Mhm.
the word God doesn't really encapsulate the creator of all things. And, but we'll say God for the purposes of this conversation. So God created me, and his attention is on me every single moment of my existence. So knowing that, how do I live my life? How do I present myself? How do I live with purpose? Just, even we spoke earlier, even in the small things, how do I represent who I am with that in mind? And that changes your perspective on everything. It changes your perspective on life. It gives you a new sense of being almost. Because when you in the mindset of still thinking, oh, I'm just a human and that's all I am, we do silly human things,
Mhm.
which is not a judgment. I love being human, but I also love knowing that I'm more than that.
Mhm. Can you imagine being, well, you're a mom. Can you
Yeah.
imagine your child coming home and saying, I'm ugly, I'm dumb, I'm all of these things, and how that would just kill you? Your beautiful child does not see her worthiness.
Mm,
I look at that as every time we say I'm a sinner, I'm this, I'm fearful, I'm not pretty enough, I can't do this, where God is going, I made you and you're perfect and I love you.
yes.
Stop thinking that you're not enough. You are enough. You're
Yeah.
perfect. God made you, and He made you in a specific, unique way. You're not the same as your neighbor. You're not the same as your sister. You're
Yeah.
all different. We're all different. And it is purposeful for the experience, for the ride we're supposed to have right now. We were placed in a certain spot. And guess what? We agreed to it. Okay, I'll volunteer. I'll go there. Oh, I'll do that. Okay, because we love right back. We love God, Source, the Creator. Of course, we'll go and do this. Starve?
Mm,
Oh, okay, but what we do it. And so stop inflicting on ourselves fear
mm,
and inadequacies, uh,
mm.
because it's an insult to who created us. Love
Yes.
yourselves. Love yourself. Put yourself
Yeah.
above. Not in an
Yes. Yes.
egotistic, I need a new pair of shoes every week way, but
Mm,
hold your head high.
yeah.
You're perfect.
Yeah. And even in the midst of chaos and in the midst of hardship and challenges, because that is probably when it gets hardest to love yourself and remember, I am capable, I am worthy, I can do this.
Mhm.
Because then, oh my goodness, I made this mistake and now I'm regretful of something and now I'm beating myself over the head for things I did 20 years ago and this and that. And you could do that if you want. That could be your process if it is, but it doesn't have to be. You can decide to forgive yourself because
Serve
there
you.
isn't, yeah, yeah,
Mm. I didn't mean to cut you off, but it just because, like, you had said the words earlier. Is it serving you? Is it
yeah.
helping you elevate yourself? Do you wake up happy, or do you wake up, just that you've just hit yourself above the head and face all night long, just
Yeah.
something that happened years ago? Let it go. Move forward,
Mm,
get over it. It's every day is a new chapter in your book. And you're the one
mm,
writing your own book. Forget it. Write your own story.
yeah. Yeah, it is because there's no one in control besides you. And God loves us so unconditionally that He gave us the opportunity to do and be whatever we want. We can think what we want. We can even choose to not believe in God, and He would be fine with that. You are allowed to to have that experience. That's how much He loves us. You
Hmm.
know, we can do anything. We can do anything, and so knowing that, what do we choose to do? And it's so empowering. It's almost stunning. Like it stuns you in place because it's so big. You know?
Hmm. I love that. It's stunning. The choices
Yeah.
that we have, and I'll share that one of the things that I got was an opportunity to see me from God's point of view. Somehow I was out of myself using God's eyes, or it's hard to explain, but I watched myself. I felt her. I saw what she was accomplishing, and this was years before I was even writing books and everything. This was seeing me a number of years ago, and I said, "Wow, she's doing such a good job, isn't she?" It was I felt the love that God had for me and the pride that He had for me. And when I woke up from that experience, there's nothing that anybody could say to me that would shake my knowing of how grand I am. I'm awesome. God loves me. It's not, I don't say that in an egotistical way. I walk through this world now knowing that I shine in God's eyes, and my purpose has meaning. I don't know what it is. I'm stumbling through it just like everybody else, but I know that He's proud of me, and I know that He's proud of everybody. I do. Awesome.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I remember a friend of mine, Sharon Milliman, she, in her near-death experience, she
No,
had a
sure.
conversation with God. You know Sharon Milliman?
Uh-huh.
And one of the things she said this to me, and it stays with me always. So she was having a conversation with God, and he said, look at this. What do you see? And she said, it was a tree. And she said, I see you, God. And look at this and look at that. And he said, well, when you look at yourself, what do you see? And she said, I see you, God. So he said, well, if if you know that I am within you and within everything, then why do you not kind of like have that worthiness about you if you know that?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, that always hits me
Yeah.
because even you just said it, when
That
he looked
aha.
at you and you felt that. It's like watching your baby do something, taking their first steps, doing, and you're just so proud and you're just so bursting with that love and that joy of watching this creation become. And it's I don't know, it's awesome. It is awesome.
Yeah. And just even the steps, as I address the audience again, but the fact that you're here and in this interview, this great one-on-one that you and I have, this connection that we have, for you to be here and a part of it. I mean, I feel the goosies. I feel the energy in the room has risen. I feel like I can just go take on the day. And so as you're viewing this, I mean, there's, I was going to use the word God, but I can't use it because I know it's like God, it's like, I know that God is happy with this. He's happy with us conversing and doing this and bringing in more people to, to, to be a catalyst to something that will raise our elevation that much more. And I speak of the book that we're putting together, and I'll let you do more explanation of the book. But the intent of it is to keep that high vibrational level, to have these stories be uplifting, and I'm super proud of it. I'm super proud that we're putting together something so beautiful.
Me too. Me too. Not only uplifting, but also empowering
Yes.
and, continuing to reinforce the messages you guys have gotten on the other side, the messages of self-worth and knowing who you are and knowing that you are loved and accepted unconditionally, no matter what you may see or experience physically. And it's I always think, oh, it's easy for people who've had near death experiences because you have the knowing, so you behave like that. But for me, I depend on that being true. Like, oh, I hope this is going to be true for me too. I hope I'm also going to have a positive experience and go somewhere good. But I really don't know that. I know that I will have an experience. I just don't know what it is going to be. And every near death experiencer as well has a different experience, which, like you said, adds to the puzzle. It's a giant puzzle. We need to put the pieces together and find the pieces that match and that resonate and see what belongs where. It's supposed to be an exciting um, discovery and expansion. It's not, oh, okay, this is how it goes. Everyone has the same experience, the end. That would be so boring. Why would
Well,
we even bother,
mhm,
So, and it's such a short experience, whether we live for 100 years or whether we live for 60 years, whatever, it's so short. And lately, I have been witnessing with my own experience how time, it means nothing.
so fast. Yeah.
It was Monday yesterday. That's how I feel.
Hmm.
And then I wake up, I have breakfast, and then it's 4 p.m. It's like and again, the reminders, to do the best we can because now we feel, oh, I'm behind in my day. I'm behind in my week, in my work schedule. I'm behind in my life. Like these things take a toll on us if we don't set aside time to connect with God and say, I'm here now. Now, I'm here now. Let the now be where we stay because when we think about the future, we get anxious. When we think about the past, we get depressed.
Hmm.
So let's, there's no
So,
time for that
so
anymore.
here's
There's
so then we
literally no time for that anymore.
so if we can be in the now as much as possible, and when we were little kids and got mad at each other and somebody said count to 10, go count to 10, or something like that, or we're in a frustrating situation and we take a deep breath. I mean, just now, the what that one deep breath, that we're bringing God into us. It's, God is everywhere, so every breath. So if we're shallow breathing and it's like stop,
Mm,
take a deep breath. We're overrun with things to do, things that we're supposed to do, and it's amazing what will come. I say I don't have time to meditate, but I lay in bed at night and I try and meditate until I fall asleep. Sometimes it's an hour and sometimes it's 7 minutes or less. But I can't do it in the middle of the day, and that's word I hate, can't, but where I'm going with that. But there are times that you can fit in some of those things. And if you can't fit in anything else, um, after you finish your sandwich at lunch, deep breath and go back and finish your day, and it's all
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's all okay. I love that. It's all okay. I have one more question for you, and maybe it's a little bit of a personal question, but I know you'll be okay answering it. And that is, how did you feel about your life review? What did that do to you?
Um, that I was speaking earlier about the ripple effect, because um, I was only in my 30s. I hadn't done too bad. Was still a pretty good person. There was one incident where a young man in the neighborhood had written me a really beautiful little poem of your eyes are so beautiful and this or that or this, and I was with a friend that I realized now was jealous. She didn't get a beautiful letter. I'm the one that got the letter, and she was like, let's write one back, only we wrote a mean one back,
Mm,
and telling him he was ugly or goofy or something. And I let myself be talked into something I really didn't want to do, and I knew that I hurt him. That was really one of the meanest things I've ever done, and I have spent years asking for forgiveness, and I did go to him a few years later and ask for his forgiveness and we became friends. But when someone says, it's like I haven't robbed a bank or anything, but I hurt somebody intentionally,
Yeah.
and I it it still bothers me, as you can tell today. And so when I saw that, I've even been told it's okay. You've been forgiven. Don't worry about it. But I still feel a bit ashamed for that. And luckily, there weren't the ripples. I didn't see huge ripples from the negative of that, as you would if it had been larger. And maybe it was the fact that I asked him for my forgiveness and apologized and whatnot. That maybe that stopped. But
Mm,
the ripples of when I was just nice to someone at a bus stop and just engaged them in conversation and saved their life. They were going to take their life. And I saw the ripples of generations, as I was saying earlier, that were born, that are here now because of what I did, that minuscule, simple little kindness. So
mm,
we're not, when we go through that life review and it's like, oh, we write a check where I donated $50 to Toys for Tots or this or that. Okay, that was nice. What did you do? What did Claudia do though? I mean, it's money. It's not that big of a thing. Did I go and offer my services or whatnot? And I know this is running long, but in the word service, because I was a pretty good person, but I spent my days off and everything working in my garden. It's a wonderful job,
mm,
but no one was seeing it. I was working, 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 and creating this beautiful
mm,
oasis. And I heard this whisper that said, service, one
mm,
word. And it was audible. This one was audible. I'm looking
mm,
around my yard. I had been carrying a big bag of mulch. I dropped the mulch.
mm,
I'm like, service. And it just hit me that I was doing good work, but I
mm,
wasn't helping. I wasn't forwarding my mission or whatever. I was not.
mm,
And that's when I went in and started Googling volunteer work. And that's when I ended up in hospice. And that was the hardest, best job I ever had. You know, um,
mm,
it's an amazing thing to offer your time. And those are the things that you're going to see on your life review: the kindnesses, the compliments, the things that raised another person, opening the door for somebody, the telling those kind of things are the things that will, it's like hearing applause on the other side. There's so
mm,
much pride of you for those things. And I want to swing back. There's not judgment on the others. There's not judgment. I know you've heard that from other NDEers. It is that life review is not a bad girl, you know, this. It is a chance to learn, and you're surrounded by your elders and ancestors and your counsel that are there to back you and hold you and love you through it. Because it's it's a learning experience, you know, not a judgment, not a
mm,
terrible, you were a sinner, you did this, you're here, you go down that hallway into the darkness. No, it's not
mm.
anything like that. It's always learning, always improving, always, and it's done with love and tenderness all the way through that.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you, Claudia. I love that. That is one of the best messages I've heard in a long time. So
Mm,
thank you for that. Because we
you
don't
bet.
think about it. And when you were talking about the ripple effect, I pictured like a pond when you throw in a pebble and then there's ripples. The same thing happens, negative acts ripple out and positive acts ripple out. And the more positive ones we can have under our belt, again, not to say, oh, I've done these things and look at me, not
Mm-hmm.
for an ego point of view, but just because it feels good. And it feels good to feel good, you know? And it
Yeah,
feels good to be in service of others. It really does.
it
There's
really
no
does.
other feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And
Wow.
we're
Thank you so much, Claudia. I really appreciate your time today. I hope that we can chat again. Maybe we can set up a time next week and we can have another conversation about more of the things that you've seen in your NDE. Yeah.
sounds wonderful.
Wonderful. Well,
Anytime.
you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Okay.
I will
Okay.
put all the
Thank
details for our book in the description, and then people can check it out. They can check out your books as well. Buy all of Claudia's books. They are wonderful. She is amazing. She is an earth angel. Wonderful. Have a wonderful day, Claudia.
Bye bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye.